Good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark. Month-long hiatus, but we are back August 14th, 2023. As always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. Other than the leg, how's it going, Clay?
Well, Parker, even a ruptured Achilles tendon is not going to bring me down. I miss you. I miss our viewers. Yes, we kind of joked around that we haven't done this in about 4 or 5 weeks because we both had different things going on. But we are back. We are reunited. We go skip one more week next week, and then weekly from the 28th on. It's going to be amazing. And yes, I did unfortunately suffer a full rupture of my Achilles tendon trying to be a weekend warrior over the weekend.
Hey, but you made it to first, right?
I did. See,
That's the important part. It was that you got on base.
I appreciate that,
as Brad Pitt would say.
Yes, and then proceeded to cry and roll over onto my back and then lie there for about 5 minutes. But other than that, it was fine. Thank you.
That part's understandable. To be fair,
yes.
I would have done the same.
Well, thanks, man. No, but I'm happy to be back and happy to be with you for sure.
Excellent. Yeah.
How about you? How about you, by the way?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm warm. It is. We are in a nice little heat wave that my air conditioner is not able to keep up with. In this like 10 by 10 room for some reason. But no, it's good. Never better.
Wow.
Yeah, I was gonna say we finally, for the first time in a month, something has happened with the Vancouver Canucks. So we are going to milk that for all it's worth, and it should be a good time. Glad to be back.
I'm glad to be back, and it looks like our viewers are glad to be back already. We have membership messages. Thank you, acknowledging their Lucas for 12 months. We got Fangirl for 13 months, Carol for 12 months. And Lucas already out of the gate, the $5 donation back from a month. Good to see you both. Trust me, people from within the Canucks do see it, especially from this 5-year, tenured employee. So I thank you. Well, good congratulations on your 5-year anniversary, Lucas. And I guess he's saying that people notice when we're gone. That's a compliment.
I mean, how could you not? We are, we're a staple.
Yes. So thank you, everyone, for the support, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah. So our big topic for the night is going to be. Not really a big topic, right? Like Pius Suter is going to be a nice little, maybe 10-minute talking point. But we figured
great pronunciation, by the way. Great pronunciation.
I looked it up.
I think we both had to learn it before our videos.
I went straight. I have the NHL pronunciation guide bookmarked, and it has been a great tool.
See, you're so smart. I didn't know there was a guide. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos of guys like Detroit calls to make sure I got it how they said it. But that's way smarter.
Yeah, there is a media guide for that. Okay. So yeah, that was helpful. But we figured we talk about sort of now the Canucks roster is mostly set except for maybe a salary shedding move.
Sure.
We figured we'd talk about where we sort of see this team. How that we see them lining up. Where we think they're going to end up, because we're 2 months away from the regular season, but we're only 1 month away from things happening, right? From camp and eventually preseason, and it's fun to speculate and get some opinions. We might do some polls. We'll see where we're at, but
sure.
Clay, anything you want to go over before we get started on our new third line center?
No, I think that's a great place to start because it'll be the launch point for, I guess, discussions for the rest of the show. So let's do it. I'm with you. I'm grateful we have something to talk about because there wasn't a lot going on for a long, long time.
No, and it was July and August in the hockey world. It is summer, but yeah, let's talk about Pius Suter.
Yes.
So the Canucks announced this signing a couple of days ago. What was that? Was that Friday?
On the Friday, yes.
Yeah, they always do it on the Friday. That's sort of their thing. So Pius Suter, 27 years old, just had a birthday back in May. Centerman, who has 3 NHL seasons under his belt, picked up by Chicago as a UFA, undrafted free agent, UDFA, in 2020 after playing in the Swiss League for basically his whole career, and was pretty good. Right, in that shortened 56-game season, he put up 27 points, 55 games, a half point per game pace, was a -5, was decent, and then Detroit decided to pay him. They gave him, was it $3.25 for 2 years, so $6.5 million. Didn't live up to that half a point per game number, sort of dropped to 36 points in 82 games, then only 24 points last year. Goal total stayed around the same, but apparently the big thing is his defensive play got even better, at least analytically. And really, when he was sort of came into the league, people thought, oh, maybe this guy can be like a sort of low-end number 2 center. He's sort of fallen down to being like a pretty good 3C. And the Canucks picking him up for just $1.6 million a year for 2 years. Very low risk, high reward. Again, sort of back to that tidy word, but yeah, it's just a good move, seemingly.
I agree with you, all your points, and it's interesting. He doesn't get the 3 years that Susie got, but he got a year more than Cole and Bluger got. And yeah, everything you said, when people ask me, well, why? Because both of us have talked about him for a bit, both on this show and otherwise. And I've always liked how, he's not the fastest guy you're ever going to see. He's not the biggest guy, but everyone calls him a Swiss Army knife in that both offensively and defensively, you're right. He can fill, God forbid, something happens to Petey or Miller for a period of time. He can actually fill in 2C much better than a Bluger would, and we'd be okay with that. He's great on the PK. And remember, those minuses, -5, -11, -3. Not bad when you're considering those are two pretty crappy teams that he played on for the past 3 seasons.
Yeah. Chicago and Detroit have not been the last 3 years, the best teams in hockey. And the biggest thing really from this was looking at his PK numbers. Analytically putting up like top level penalty killing for a team that last year, I don't know if you noticed, Clay, Canucks weren't very good on the penalty kill last year.
So that was the problem.
Actually, historically bad. We've sort of heard things like Rick Tocchet saying, he doesn't want to have to put guys like Elias Pettersson out there on the penalty kill every night, right? Give him more opportunity to produce offense, which I know I like Pettersson on the power play, but it does help if you have someone who can do just as good of a job on the PK and allow Elias Pettersson to play, 20 minutes plus a night of 5-on-5 and 5-on-4. It is just going to allow more goals theoretically to be scored. So having a guy like Pius Suter who can probably fill in on your top PK, hopefully.
Yes.
And if when we talked about it last year, if this Canucks penalty kill was league average last year, they would have been a decent team, but they weren't.
And I know we're going to talk about lines and power play and penalty kill units later in the show, but Suter kind of fits the profile of all the guys that we basically signed this offseason with Suter, Bluger, Cole, Susie. What can they all do? Kill penalties. Throw Hronek in there. We only saw 4 games of him, so I think we were both treating him like a new player, and that's a 5th new player. Also a great penalty killer as well. So certainly fits the mold, and you're exactly right. They identified that as the biggest weakness for our team last season, so they are certainly addressing it.
Yeah, and it was a very obvious big weakness to fill. It was everyone took notice. And when the Canucks signed Teddy Bluger in free agency, people sort of thought, okay, that's where he'll slot into that 3C role. And the consensus was sort of like he can play 3C. He's a really good 4C, and but as a 3C, maybe he'll do fine.
Yes. Yeah.
And for a team that needs every little bit of help they can get, the fact that now you're going to have Bluger probably drop down to that 4C role, and then you can put Suter in there as your 3C, again at a very low cost. And that just makes things a lot down the middle now. This team's starting to look kind of stacked, honestly.
Yeah, they're better. And I know, Parker, we're not just podcast partners, but we're friends. I did text you as soon as the news came out, and I said, are you okay with your boy Niels Amon potentially being bumped out of the lineup?
Yeah, he'll have to work for a spot. That is for sure. He did it last year. He pulled it off once. I hope he can do it again, because that would just mean he's doing better. Niels Amon he's a good depth piece, right? Like he's a good sort of number 5 center, I think, sort of along like the Sheldon Dries sort of route, right? Where you probably don't want him in the lineup every night, but if you need him to play 30 games a year because of injury, that's a fine piece to slot in, because he'll only play 9 minutes a night on those nights anyways.
Sure.
So again, adding more pieces higher up, pushes everything down and makes not only the third line get better, but now the fourth line got better because you were able to move Bluger down, and really it's a big benefit.
Yeah, I want to say one other thing about Suter, but real quickly, just want to acknowledge another donation. Thank you, Lucas. Jersey number. I didn't even know this. So did you know this? I'm getting a scoop here. You knew this? Where did it come out?
Yesterday, I think.
Cool. Hirose going from 36 to 41. Andrew Albert's old number.
Alberts, yep, I had the same thought as well.
And Studnicka going from 23 to 18. Dickinson?
No, from 18 to 23.
Oh, sorry, 223 from 18. Sorry. Thank you.
So he's taking OEL's number.
Which was Edler's number. Wow. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. Thank you, Lucas, for that. No, I didn't see that. How did I miss that?
Bit of a weird forward number, 23. I think I like Jelena. Was he 23?
That's true. Very good. So Suter, Parker, he in my keeper league, when he was lighting it up in Chicago in his first season, as you mentioned, 0.5 points per game, I picked him up because no one knew who he was. I got him so cheap because he was on a basically entry-level deal for that 1 year as an undrafted free agent. And he was great because you always got to find those kind of fringe players. And then I dropped him 2 weeks into the Detroit season.
yeah. He's not going to be he's not a big point producer.
No.
Yeah, we saw his offense drop,
right,
especially last year. But the fact that at least analytically his defensive numbers only got better is fantastic.
Yes,
I do like you said Swiss Army knife. He is Swiss, so I guess I'm sure that's where that term comes from.
Didn't even think about that. Yes.
Yeah. I have no complaints. There's nothing to complain about. The rumors were that there was no teams going around offering him a 1-year deal, which is everyone was just giving him a 1-year offer, which is kind of surprising because at that low of a price point, there's not a lot of downside to a second year. If anything, right? He's shown a flash at the very least in that first year in Chicago, and a bit in that second year in Detroit as a guy who could put up 35-40 points if he has if he has a great year, and you think he might be playing on a line with Connor Garland, right?
Yes.
There actually might be a chance to put up a couple of points. That second year you might be getting more value than that, right?
Parker, would you consider either if they need offense or a different look? Would you consider reuniting the Lotto line? Because technically, if whoever it is, Miller or Petey at center, they're on the same line. Is my point. Or is Suter, Bluger, Oman, Dries, whatever? Is that a little too thin now? Or
that is one of the thoughts on the roster side is you look down the middle here and you go, oh, Elias Pettersson, great number 1 center.
Yep.
JT Miller, really good number 2 center if he can sort some of the defensive side things out, which he showed a flash of, especially later in the season. So I'm not super concerned on that. Mm-hmm. Pius Suter as a 3 center, great, a really good 3C. Teddy Bluger 4C, great 4C. Right down the middle, the Canucks look excellent.
Mm-hmm.
But if JT Miller maybe isn't playing as great at center, and you wanted to put him on the wing, and you want to do put him with Pettersson, and whether it's Besser or Mikheyev or Pavillia or Kuznetsov, whoever you want to put him with, the 3 of them, then you have is Suter your 2C? That doesn't sound great, right? And then Bluger's your 3C, and then your 4C is Niels Amon.
Yeah.
Right? Suddenly it's pretty thin, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the Canucks' success this year is going to come down to JT Miller playing center, right?
Yeah.
He needs to play center. He needs to do well.
Yeah.
And that's really end of story. It just has to be that way. Otherwise, they're going to be thin.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of JT Miller, did you catch snippets, read about the podcast appearance he made?
I saw a couple of tweets about it.
Yeah, just very, very frank, very honest. Talked about how bad last season was. Talked about how he still wants to do well here. He's going to sign. That's why he signed here long term. I'm sure the money had something to do with it. And he basically talked about how he loves the passion of the fan base, and he hates a couple members of the media. He didn't say who, but everyone's guessing it's Drance and Sakaris. But
yeah, probably. That's funny.
I like him. I don't know if I have anything in common with him. He wouldn't be my first choice to hang out with. Not that I hang out with players, but I do like him for our team. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. Another note that I did see, though,
Yeah.
no one to take draws on the right side.
Oh.
That is all lefties down the middle. The concern there, of course, is face-offs in your own zone to the goalie's right.
Right.
Because then you are winning the face-off towards your goalie, most likely. I did see Drance make a pretty decent point that JT Miller's weird karate axe chop thing that he does works surprisingly well, so you can just put him out there. I've tried to use that, by the way. It's hard to do. You got to be really strong.
That's right. He just does that low, like that quick.
He goes low and he just goes across, and it works for him. So I guess that'll be their only option in those scenarios, which again isn't ideal. You don't really want JT Miller on your PK, right for those faceoffs, and teams on the other side can take advantage of that. If you have an offensive zone on the power play, unless it's a whistle, like a goalie stoppage, but the start of power play, you get to pick what side you take the faceoff on, right? So,
that's true.
Teams can say, okay, we're going to play on our left, which is the other team's right, and it's going to mess with them a bit and help them get possession early. So one small flaw in the plan.
Were you surprised, not too much of a tangent, but still related, that Curtis Lazar didn't work out as well? Because he was that right shot center that was basically replacing Brandon Sutter.
Yeah, and that was one of those moves that at the time was like, oh, that's same reaction as this one, right? Like, oh, that's just a good move, right? And it was really, right? $1 million for 3 years for a guy who seemed like he would be a solid fourth line center.
Yep.
Didn't work out for whatever reason, and they got rid of him. They didn't lose anything in the process, so it was a pretty, a net positive, really. And that's sort of what I see these as too, right? If Teddy Bluger doesn't fit, then you can probably ship him off and not lose anything, right? Except now you don't have a 4C, right? So that's the thing about, you look at this lineup, it's quite a bit different, right? Especially on the back end. So all these acquisitions, again, if they all work, if everyone gels together and meshes together well, this team has the potential to be decent. If they don't, this team could be bad, right? Because again, it's you can be more or less than the sum of your parts, and I think that's going to be a real interesting thing to see as we get into training camp and preseason and see what lines are working well together, which ones aren't. Not to base too much on preseason and things like that, but
true.
I mean, we've said in the past that preseason needs to be treated like regular season for this team, right? They cannot afford to go 0-5-2 to start the year again next year.
Yes, go 0-5-2 in preseason, so at least you have a better chance of winning game one.
I wouldn't like that either, though.
I know. Well, yeah, but still, I'd rather have the crappy preseason. But I hear what you're saying.
So, be like the Baltimore Ravens. I think they've won
what
26. They've won like 26 preseason games in a row.
What?
I don't think they haven't lost a preseason game since like 2015.
What?
I don't know, weird stat.
That's pretty impressive. Okay, so you mentioned a bunch of new players. Yeah, I count at least I count 5, if not 6, new players of the 18 skaters. So that's 1/3 of the roster that we're going to see on opening night. That's huge turnover.
Yeah, and there's a couple that you could. I mean, like Anthony Beauvillier. He's not new, but pretty new. How many games did he play? Like 20-something last year for the team, and Mikheyev is going to be new, kind of, because he has 2 legs this year, hopefully. And then, of course, on most of the changeovers on the defensive side, which, of course, the team desperately needed.
Right.
Yeah. So we want to get into sort of our thoughts, predictions for
let's do it.
Where we'd like to see this roster do. I guess what we should maybe start with is what move do the Canucks make next, right? They are a team that, according to Cap Friendly, is about $5 million over the cap. To be specific, $4,984,167 over the cap.
Right.
However, with currently Tanner Pearson and Tucker Poolman on LTIR, the Canucks would have about $766,000 of cap space. So they are essentially capped out. One problem there, Tanner Pearson might play. However,
Yes.
here now Tanner Pearson's actually an interesting topic of conversation because the news around Pearson has been like, oh yeah, he's going to show up at camp and he's going to play, right? But then I saw Saudi Shah tweeting out earlier this week, my money would be that Tanner Pearson does not play at the beginning of the season. And that was just 2-3 days ago, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind. However, if Pearson ever does come back into the lineup, they would need to make some sort of corresponding move.
Yeah.
But let's say Pearson does come back. So the Canucks then would need to shed about $2.5 million of cap space and add Pearson to the roster. So I think it would be...
Right.
Would you have to add an extra $1 million on that? I don't know. The math is hard. You have to shed about $2.5 million, ideally.
Yeah, no, you're correct because
Actually, you get to send someone down, so maybe only 1.5.
Yes, that's right. That's more accurate.
Okay, so they wouldn't have to shed that much because I'm assuming Tucker Poolman's not playing.
Correct. But the point being exactly that is it's funny how it comes down to this. It might come down to the guy who we didn't even see for the majority of last season. That is indeed Tanner Pearson, a guy who I'm sure is a Rick Tocchet kind of guy, low maintenance, good on the boards, all that kind of thing. Yet, what do we have too many of on this team? Kind of forwards that make too much money. And you could argue Tanner Pearson at 3-2 makes too much. So if he somehow, kind of what Sat was saying, Parker, if he somehow winds up on LTIR again because he simply can't go, then yeah, believe it or not, you know this, we are cap compliant even with OEL's measly $146,000 cap hit and the $850,000 the Kuzmenko overage. Those are the two kind of non-roster things because we got rid of Luongo's cap recapture penalty. So we're actually okay if Tanner Pearson does not make the team. But you are right, Parker. If he does make the team, comes back healthy, they do got to shed. And then the easy one for me to say is Myers. You move Myers, not only do you get $6 million of cap relief, not just $2 million, and then you have $3 million to play with throughout the season if you ever want to increase. And then San Jose needs a right shot D-man, blah blah blah. But so that would be the easy one, and then you can always go back to the old song of one of Beauvillier, Garland, or Besser. But we've kind of been down that road already.
Yeah, the easy one does feel like Myers.
Yeah,
right, because he's a $6 million cap hit. My problem with Myers.
Yep.
I mean, if you project the lineup as like Hughes, Soucy, Cole, Hronek, and then you put Myers in the third pair, right? How long is that going to last? Do we really think Tyler Myers is not playing 20 minutes a night come game 13 of the season? Because I bet he is. Like, it seems to always happen.
But not if Cole and Hronek do really well on the right side.
Sure, of course, right?
Yeah.
There is definitely a chance that Myers. I just feel like they've been so dependent on him, and it's just he's like stuck in the back of my brain as like
totally fair.
Yep, he plays 22 minutes a night, no matter what.
Yes,
and he will fall over and be way away from the play, but sometimes he'll make like a weird rush that looks cool. So if you can shed that, but then the thing is, you do have to replace that, right? Because the Canucks don't really have. I mean, what do you want to go Matt Irwin in the lineup there? Like that's
no Juleson. Ethan Bear back in December.
See, okay, now that's something I might be interested in, right?
Right.
I don't know even who's available, if there are any like decent free agent defensemen left. But yeah, if you could shed Myers and pick up someone who's going to be stable for 15 minutes a night, that would be great. And then you do have a few more dollars. I don't know what you do with that. I don't know if you just try to accrue it and maybe use it at the deadline or just to have. But again, if you are dipping into that $2.5 million of Tucker Poolman LTIR, if Pearson's back, you do want to be as close to the top, as close to the cap as possible.
Gosh, imagine the Canucks are buyers at the deadline. Wouldn't that be crazy?
If they are and they're like 7th in the West, I'm going to be mad.
I know you will. Well, good content. By the way, Carol, speaking of good content, thank you for the donation, Carol. We appreciate you. And we can quickly address this because we touched on it. But what would be the best play for Miller, center or wing? We both agree that Tocchet likes Miller as a center. Miller likes to play as a center. So we think that's where he's at least going to start.
Yeah, I think he's, like last year, I think he played best on the wing. However, for this team's success, we need him to play center.
Yep. Agreed.
And we need him to do a good job.
Yes. Thank you, Carol, for the donation. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. So we started with the blue line. So, do you see it? So everything that I've seen, and not just because I've seen it this way, also my thoughts too, was if Cole played more on the right side than Susie, and we understand that both can play both sides. A lot of what I've seen is Hughes, Cole, Susie, Hronek. Are you okay with that? If they go that way,
I think so.
Yep.
We have to be comfortable with Ian Cole playing a lot.
True.
And he is getting older, in hockey terms.
Mm-hmm.
How old is he now? He's like 34.
30. Is that old?
He is 34.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I mean, he was good last year, right? But like,
yeah,
he's been good, but he's not like a super high offense guy, right?
Correct. Tough though.
So it's a lot of ice time, right?
Yep.
I don't know what his average time on ice was last year.
Yeah.
It seems like way too much work to find that. But yeah, I definitely see them giving it a spin. My fear is that they try too many things in preseason instead of letting some chemistry build up. But yeah, I don't think I think I'd be more comfortable with Ian Cole playing that much than Carson Soucy.
Okay. And you agree that Hughes and Hronek should be split up. Do you agree with that?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, I definitely see the argument for both sides, right? Like, because for me, I look at it, I'm like, oh, well, if you want some offense, okay, if the Canucks need a goal, they're going to put them together, right? I think that's probably what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you probably do want to split them up, and that way you can take a bit of load off of Hughes, right? You can play him, if you go 22-22 or 22-20-18 as your split, right?
Yeah.
That's not too bad for a D-man. Although I don't know if you want to give 18 to the third pair now that I'm thinking about it, because it's not it's looking a little bleak.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you probably do want to split them up. So you're thinking Hughes and Cole as your number one pairing.
Correct. And Cole is our like Luke Shen. That's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for argument's sake, let's go Soucy and Hronek. So and let's say that Myers starts the season on the right side. I think I've asked you this before, but I want to hear from you. Is it Hirose, Wolanin, Rathbone, Breezeball, Irwin? Of those five, or maybe you have another one, who are you playing on the third left side opposite Tyler Myers?
That's tough.
I know what you're going to say. I'm going to write it down.
That's going to be the big battle of the preseason, right? Like, again, we look at the four centers, right? Like, okay, maybe Neil Zaman and Teddy Bluger are kind of battling it out for 4C, but that's kind of pushing it, right? Yep. Wingers are going to be battling, right? DiGiuseppe is going to be battling with Joshua, who's going to be battling with Podkolzin, who's going to be battling with Höglander, right? There's that battle as well. 6D though is a big battle. In a perfect world, they all do so good that they all get a spot. You can see the fruit fly going, can't you, in front of the camera?
No, I didn't. I'm actually
saw it on the screen.
I'm just getting ready to show you.
Yeah, I saw it, and you're right. That would be my pick. Who I think is most likely is Christian Wolanin.
Right.
I would prefer it. In an ideal world, though, we see someone like Hirose come out and be good enough to take that spot, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Wolanin's going to be much worse than he was last year.
He was good.
Right?
He was really good.
Exactly, right? So I think he's going to probably, if he's level and he doesn't get the spot, that means someone else played better, right? And that would be great. So I think that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping he doesn't get it, because that would mean we have better options.
Oh, I like that. Okay, actually, that's a really good way of putting it. But yeah, maybe you're right. I do think it's going to be Hirose and Wolanin battling for that sixth spot. Then the other guys, the extra. You know how we both like Jack Rathbone, but is this opportunity kind of passing him by? I'm not sure. And Irwin, did you know that Matt Irwin played like over 50 games in the NHL last year? I thought he was more AHL fodder, but no.
So did I.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Irwin is like perfect number 7.
Yeah, number 7
bucks, right?
Yep.
Because you're not worried about you want Hirose playing games, you want Rathbone playing games, you want Wolanin playing games.
Yeah.
maybe to a lesser extent. But yeah, Matt Irwin, if he has to sit in the press box, he played 61 games last year.
What?
Yeah.
What was his points?
5.
Not okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna say not that we're expecting him to light it up.
Yeah, not a lot. That was the lowest points per game on the team.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I think I lost what I was saying.
We're just talking about Irwin, perfect number 7.
Cole McWard? You don't think Cole McWard pulls it off?
Not yet. I think he showed enough that at least he's decent, but I don't know if I'm starting him in my top 6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
You?
Yeah, of course not.
Okay. And then Spartan, we will get to your donation as soon as we make our transition from defense to forwards, but thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll acknowledge that in like 2 seconds. Okay, so if you were a betting man, you're going Wolanin and Myers as your bottom pair.
If I'm betting, I don't know. Because the thing, if I'm betting, maybe Myers is gone and they get a 5 and a 6D that are different.
Wow.
Who knows, right? No, I don't think I'd bet on that either, though. I think I think Wolanin is probably the bet, or Hirose. I really think that's it.
Okay, I agree.
I wish Rathbone would take that step, but it just doesn't seem like it's happened yet.
By the way, I can't wait for 3 or 4 years from now when our second pairing is DPD and Willander. Wouldn't that be pretty cool if that's the case?
That will be great, and the team is still getting 88 points a year.
You make me so sad.
I haven't seen success in so long. Anyways,
I know.
So that's sort of where we're at on defense. Any other defensive thoughts there?
No, that's good. Although Botch guy comes in and says, "I see no chance they're going with this D. I'm 100% confident that Tyler Myers is being moved."
I just don't see it. I don't know why. I don't know. For some reason it doesn't. I hope I'm wrong. I'm fine with being wrong. Just for some reason I feel like there hasn't been enough smoke on Tyler. I feel like everything I have seen is people being like, "Oh, the bonus gets paid," and then they'll just move him. But I don't think I've seen any reputable sources really say that. Right?
Only Sarah Valley has hinted that they've been talking for a long time. Yes. Right.
And then, but that's one person. It's not
Correct.
A local person.
It's not Dollywall. It's not. Yeah, that's a good point. So, and I feel like a lot of people sort of latched onto it with a bit of hope, and we're like, okay, that's what's happening. We're doing that. And again, I'd be happy to be wrong, but I just don't know if I see it. Yep. No, that's fair. That's fair. And that'll be, I think, along with the PD contract extension. Did you get it?
I don't think so.
You need chopsticks. Aside from the PD contract extension, which we know could last, and I think we need to be prepared for it to last all season. Yes, that will be the biggest story, is the fate of Tyler Myers. So should we go to the forwards now?
Sure.
Awesome. Let's start us off with Spartan. Thank you for the donation, Spartan. Who plays on PD's right wing? I don't think he can do playmaker effectively for both Kuzi and Besser, but Brock needs a boost. Does Garland get a chance? My pick isn't actually one of those guys he mentioned, but I'll let you go first. Who's your top line?
Oh, I want to see Petey Mikheyev Kuzmenko.
Me too. We agree.
Right.
We agree.
Like that. Yeah. I want fun, and I want to see Ilya Mikheyev with 2 knees. That was he was fine until he stopped playing. But now that we know that there was probably an extra gear in there that we missed out on, I think that could be a really fun group to see together.
I agree. So I'm in agreement with you. So we got Petey and the 2 Russians as our first line. Who's your second line? Miller and...
So you've got Miller, and then you basically have 4 wingers to choose from, right?
Besser.
Besser. Oh, sorry, 3, right? Beauvillier, Besser, Garland, right?
Right.
Crazy?
Right.
Yeah.
No, or I saw one guy project Di Giuseppe up there. Dan Riccio did.
I hope
he had Miller, Besser, Di Giuseppe as the second line.
That doesn't sound very fast. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Beauvillier is still a weird one for me.
Yeah.
I'm not very attached to Beauvillier. He seems like I feel like he's probably paid more than he needs to be.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have like that flash, I guess, that might, like he's sort of just like a pretty well-rounded, decent winger, 40-point winger. Like that's fine. But he doesn't like, you don't watch him play and you're like, oh wow, look at that sweet play Anthony Beauvillier just made, right? It doesn't really happen. Well, Garland does the spins, right? Besser finds a weird pass or used to have a good shot. I don't see that with Beauvillier. So maybe that's my reasoning for not seeing him as much. I don't know. Do I see out of those three? I mean, I think I don't know. Maybe Beauvillier and Besser.
Yeah. So for me, I got Miller and Besser together for sure. I just don't see Besser as a third line player. So Miller and Besser for sure. And then it's either one of Beauvillier is more naturally, he's a left-hander. But I know Garland is a right-hander, right winger, but I have visions, Parker. Correct me if I'm wrong. I thought the three Americans played together last year. Not a lot, but they did. Like Miller, Besser, and Garland. Or am I completely losing it?
I don't know. That doesn't sound wrong to me.
But I mean, one of the guys is on the off wing technically.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like I saw Garland do a lot of spins on the left wall. Like that's what I pictured in my head when I said I see Garland spinning. I pictured it on a left wall.
Left wall down in the corner. Yes.
He curls. He puts the puck towards the wall and curls that way.
Yeah.
So that might work if his only role is to spin.
Just stand in the corner and just
that's your job.
We'll call him washing machine. He's a spin
exactly.
cycle. Okay.
Yeah, that's gonna work great.
So I'm with you. Let's say for our purposes of this show, we're going Miller, Besser, Beauvillier. So there's our second line.
Right. And then
So
that leaves you with your third
Suter.
line is going to be Suter.
With Garland.
You have to have Garland there.
Yeah.
And then, now you have a bunch of guys to choose from. Do you go Podkolzin or Höglander or DiGiuseppe or Joshua or where are you leaning for?
Third line. If it's third line and if it's Suter and Garland, this obviously isn't going to be a big shutdown line. If you're going offense and as well, I go Höglander there. I really do.
Yeah, well, I mean, Suter's defensive.
Oh, yeah, Suter's
right.
Good. Yeah, you're right.
I worry a little bit about Höglander on a third line.
Do you?
I don't know. I a little bit. But again, it could be good. But I don't know. I feel like DiGiuseppe gets in there. That might be a spot.
Well, that's a hot take. That's good.
I don't know though. I think that could be a little bit of fun. But yeah, I think the best player should play there, and that might be Höglander. I think he does need to take a step though. Again, he looked good in the AHL in the playoffs, especially, but he didn't look great at the beginning of last season.
Right. Okay, so you got DiGiuseppe, I got Höglander. Okay, I have time for your DiGiuseppe argument. So that means your fourth line. We start with Bluger. Is there any way Joshua is not the left winger on that fourth line? No,
it's him. It's him. Yeah. And then it's Bluger, or if Oman goes crazy in training camp, but or Bluger's really bad in training camp.
Right.
So it's probably Bluger. It's very likely Joshua. And then who do you put on the right there?
I know who I want. I don't know if it's going to happen. Podkolzin. I want him there.
Yeah, I think that could work. Again, it's such a minor role. My thing for Podkolzin is I want him playing, right? So it's either there or the AHL. I don't want him, as a scratch.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd be happy with that. I mean, what other options do you have, right?
Sednica?
Yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah.
That's technical. That sure is technically an option.
Yep. And Pearson, we haven't even talked about him.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. So Tanner Pearson really shakes this whole thing up, right? Yeah. Because Tanner Pearson coming back makes that third line look pretty good. Right? So, because then what you're doing is you're bumping Höglander down.
Correct.
Or PDG, if my weird scenario comes to fruition. And then you would have, Suter, Pearson, Garland.
Yep.
And then your fourth line is now Bluger with Joshua, and then, Höglander or DiGiuseppe or Podkolzin.
Correct. Yeah.
And then suddenly that starts to look, and then you got some decent depth, right? You've got two of PDG and Höglander or Podkolzin available as depth.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's true. So, yeah, if Pearson comes back, it muddles our salary cap situation, but it does make the team a little bit deeper, for sure.
Yeah, it would mean they'd have to get rid of somebody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if Pearson comes back and then they trade away Beauvillier, then it's like, okay, well, now it's, you're just going to shift people up and put Pearson on the third line.
Right.
I don't see a world where Pearson's any higher than the third line.
No, not in this team. Well, actually,
especially
not
on
on any
an
team.
injury.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Okay, so that's good. So we basically agree on 11 of the 12 wingers, 11 to 12 forwards. We're both okay with each other's picks of Höglander or Di Giuseppe. The other one will be likely the 13th or 14th forward, and the other one would be one of Podkolzin, Studnicka, or Pearson, Podkolzin, depending on who makes it. So if we agree on that, I think we can talk about the goaltenders, because I would be curious. Obviously, Demko's number one.
Mm-hmm.
If you forget the betting man analogy, just who do you want? Who do you think? Maybe they're the same answer. They're different. Is it Seelovs? Is it Martin?
Yeah. Seelovs looked pretty good last year. Like, everything that Seelovs has done has shown that he is going to be a goalie, right? Like, he's going to be somebody. Whether it's playing for Latvia and carrying that team to a medal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, doing really well for Abbotsford last year. He put up a 909 in 44 games, put up a 908 in 5 games in Vancouver too.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good. He's only 22. And I wonder if it's better for him to play 30 games in the NHL or 45 games in the AHL.
Right.
Not a big difference, really. Also, if he's the backup up here, that's more time with Ian Clark, most likely, which might be a good thing. However, I don't like either of them as a backup goalie really right now. I don't think Spencer Martin didn't have a great year last year, right? Yeah. He was great before that in that limited time.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to go into it as a completely open contest. I think you have to literally go into that and be like, hey, you two, we have, there's reasons for and against both of you.
Yeah.
We need to win. Really, the thing for the Canucks is the 27 games that the backup goalie starts this year, they need to win half of them.
Yep.
If they want any shot, right?
Yep.
So they need to pick whoever plays better. And I bet that'll be Seelovs.
You're exactly right. That math is right on, because I think if you want to be 95 points, that's 13 games over 500. One way to get there is 42, 29, and 11. So there's your plus 13. And yeah, if we say that our starter Demko needs to win 30 or 32 of 55, that you're right. You're exactly right. Our backup's got to win 13 of 27, 50%. Man, you know what I see? I see it. I do think it's going to be merit-based, whoever does better in training camp and preseason. But I could see it being Demko and Martin, but then you have the advantage of inserting Seelovs once in a while when it makes sense. So even though Martin's the, quote, backup, I could see Seelovs playing just as much as him and playing in Abbotsford. I could see that.
Yeah, it could definitely happen where the Canucks have, a home and home where they play. Yeah. They play in, Calgary, and then they play a home game. Right? I don't know. I don't remember the schedule very well.
Right.
But yeah, they could have a back-to-back game where the second game is at home, and they say, okay, well, we're just going to put Martin in the press box, call up Seelovs for one game, send down, I don't know, insert waiver non-eligible defenseman here, right?
Yeah.
If you send Hirose down for a game, right?
Yeah.
And then you play him. That is an option. I don't know how much Spencer Martin would like that, but it is an option.
Right. And then you don't even bother taking Seelovs on the road, right? That's the point.
Yeah. And then because maybe it's a Tuesday, and then he plays a game in Abbotsford on Friday.
Yeah. Does Abbotsford only play on the weekends?
I don't know. It's not only the weekends.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I think they try to keep them mostly on the weekends, though, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Okay. So does that roster that we just laid out, I don't think the backup goaltender is going to make or break the Canucks' playoff chances. Playoff team to you? Everything we just talked about.
I do, just so you know, AHL, they play their entire season. They only play about 80 games Mondays and Tuesdays all year. Friday and Saturday is 700 of the games. So they do keep most of the games on. It's like Wednesday, Friday, Saturday.
Gotcha.
But yeah, playoff team. Looking on paper, again, I get optimistic every year. It's like looking on paper. I mean, I'm looking at the center depth. Looks great. Winger depth, too much. But I think the wingers are fine, right? You've got enough top-end talent there in Kuzmenko and Mikheyev and Besser to like, and again, Besser's teetering. But he could come back a little bit, right? And you add in Garland and Beauvillier, and like you only need a couple of them to excel.
Yep.
And then you look at the depth of, third and fourth line, it looks decent. And then on defense, you still got Quinn Hughes. Now you have Ronick, who you didn't have last year before. You have Ian Cole, who you didn't have last year. You basically replaced Luke Shen with Ian Cole. That's probably an upgrade. You have Susie now, who I'm not super confident in, but again, still a different piece. I see no reason why this team doesn't have the potential to be a playoff team, but there's so many new pieces, and there's such a history of just of underperforming that I fear that they won't be. I would really put it at like 55% yes.
Yep. That tracks with what I'm thinking. So if you're that close to 50-50, then you're obviously talking about one of the two wild card spots.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah. And I'm not even taking into account the competition, like the other teams. I'm just looking at this team and like, hey, where would I place? Like, how many wins does this team get, right?
Yeah.
Not even thinking about like how are the Kings going to do next year? Are the Flames going to have the drop off that we expect them to, right? So that's definitely a different part of it. But I'm comparing it to the team last year, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, yeah, I think it's better. I'm looking at the penalty kill compared to last year, and it has to be better. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I mean, again, there's no reason why this team can't be a playoff team. They just need to live up to their potential as a group.
So I agree with you. I stupidly said they would be third in the Pacific last season. that turned out real good. And if you do consider the competition, if we're saying there's no way they're going to catch at least points, Edmonton and Vegas, will they catch one of LA or Seattle? Not both, maybe one. So then now you're looking at fourth or fifth in Pacific, and you only get in as a second wild card if you beat out 5 of the 8 Central teams. So it's gonna be tricky.
Yeah,
it's gonna be challenging.
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not an easy road. That's for sure.
I agree.
But it's possible.
Yep, it is,
and I hope it happens.
Me too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what all the projections have. When we get closer to the start of the season, right?
Yeah.
Like, where do the analytical models place them? Where do, all the other pundits place them? Like, I want to see... Because remember last year we came into it and The Athletic gave the Canucks a 49% chance of being a playoff team, right?
Oh, is that what it was?
Yep, and we talked about it and we thought that might be too low. Nope. No, it was too high. 49% too high.
Yes. One last question about playoffs. A lot of people I've seen are rating Calgary over Vancouver. They still have Huberdeau. They still have Kadri. They still have Lindholm, Backlund, even though they all want to leave. They've only lost to Foley. They still have Uyghur. Markstrom could bounce back. Like, I don't hate. Calgary is my least favorite team, though. I don't hate them. I just don't like them. Are we kind of not giving them enough credit, too?
So...
I hope not.
They were a 93-point team last year. And I think they're worse.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because they're a pretty old team. So, yeah, I think they've gotten a little bit worse to the point where, I mean, they missed the playoffs last year. I don't see them improving. So I don't think that should be... Like, if the Canucks are going to make the playoffs, they're going to need more than 93 points anyways. So Calgary shouldn't even be, unless they get better, right? That's the only way that they're a problem.
Okay, that's fair. That's
because, 93 doesn't cut it.
Correct. I agree. Yeah, let's hope for another subpar season from Huberdeau and Markstrom. Fine with me.
Yeah, what a drop-off that was for Huberdeau, eh?
Oh, it's crazy.
Especially the dichotomy compared to Kachuk.
Yep. Stanley Cup
Huberdeau's
final.
30 now, eh?
Yep.
I can't believe he literally had his point total cut in half.
Yep.
115 points down to 55.
But he's making 11 million or 10, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I look at that and I think, okay, well, is there any way Huberdeau has that bad of a year again next year? Right, that might be the one way that the Flames get better.
Right.
Is Huberdeau bouncing back to like 85 points? Maybe that's the world in which Calgary is still better.
Right. That's fair.
But I mean, like, I'm just looking at like their daily face-off lineup. I don't know how accurate this is, but like, I mean, they've got Sharon Govich as their number one winger, or number one right winger, right? Which I mean is like fine, but like, Matt Coronado is on their second line on here.
What?
That can't be right, but it's like,
who's on their third line?
They have Mangiapane, Backlund, and Coleman as their third line, which is a pretty good third line.
Yeah,
I think Backlund's getting up there though, isn't he?
Yeah, he's still good though.
He's 34 now.
Yeah.
He had 56 points last year. I don't think he'll do that. That was a career year for him. I mean, that's gonna come back down a bit.
You know what's the weirdest thing, Parker? I have a coworker named Sharon Go.
That is weird.
Yeah.
That's all. Chris Tanev's going to be 34.
Yep.
By the middle of this season, right? Like they're getting up there.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll save that for our predictions episode because we do so well in those.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun to look back on again.
Oh, that's right. That's our last filler piece if we need it for that August 28th show.
Yeah. All right. Should we go to some questions, or do you have anything else you wanted to?
No, I'm ready for. We can do a few minutes of questions to wind up.
All right. Let's get some comments here from the people.
Sure, Peter, go ahead. Peter does this weird thing on my stream where he makes me ask Patrick Alvin, who he thinks is hiding my closet, a question. So yes, Peter, you can ask Parker, and Parker can then just ask me to ask him whatever. We'll just see what happens. All right, what do we got for everyone?
You lost me.
Don't worry, I lost myself too.
Blitz says Corey Schneider is a UFA.
He was pretty funny.
That'd be a choice.
I liked him.
Edmund asks, does Suter have the best chance of being the Canucks' unsung hero? That is like a 3D 5 or 5D 3C kind of award.
Yeah. So having said that, I think Suter will be great for this team. I just have a feeling like that one of the two new defensemen, Cole or Susie, even though they're playing in top four, I don't know. I just have a feeling that Ian Cole's going to win unsung hero because
I think that's a good bet.
Yeah, he's like our Luke Shen, right? Our new Luke Shen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do we got here? See anything you like here, Clay?
Well, Botch guy, how are the Canucks going to stay cap compliant if Pearson actually plays? Yeah, we kind of mentioned that, Botch. Not sure you heard it, but we did say then that it would trigger one more move of some sort. With this,
you'd have to
trade
lose Myers or a winger or something along those lines.
For sure. Cale Makar on the NHL 24 cover.
I like that it's a real cover and he's not just sitting on a bench or something. So that's good. Because the last couple have just been like not action shots, which is weird.
Right.
But yeah, Cale Makar's good.
Yep. I'm just
Lucas says bets on Vegas having a cup hangover. Maybe they're not going to drop out of the playoffs though. Like that's not the Canucks aren't taking their spot. I don't think. I mean, you got to remember especially how good they were in the latter half of the season, right? They weren't good at the start of the year. I think Vegas will be just fine.
Yeah, I think they got one more year, and then I believe a lot of their contracts expire at the end of this upcoming season, so that might be more challenging. But then that also frees up a lot of money, and they've spent their money well. So
yeah, they might just be gearing up for one last ride there.
I agree. I'm not sure how we got 100 people in our chat as we're winding down, but that's awesome.
Yeah, on August 14th.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Sager's Rage, $5 donation. So I don't think being sarcastic. I think just saying these are only cosmetic changes by the management until the cap goes up. Now, Petey's new contract is going to eat up some of that cap going up.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of it, and he's going to deserve every penny. Yeah, I mean, they're minor changes because that's all they could afford to do, right? And it's hard to, it's hard to make a big splash. And it usually, sometimes big splash doesn't work unless you're Florida. That big splash should work. But yeah, it's pretty. I don't know. They didn't have much flexibility. I mean, it's not that. Buying out Oliver Ekman-Larsson was a pretty big move to make, right? Like, that's a lot of money to just eat, essentially.
Yes.
But yeah, it's not like they're not going out and signing any star UFAs or anything.
That's fair. Yep. But at least these guys have a plan compared to what Benning was. Benning was like, save my butt every summer, whereas it seems like Alvin and Rutherford have a plan.
Edmund says if Myers gets traded, are the Sharks the favorite to get him?
Well, there's a big hole on their right side, for sure. Are they the favorite? Well, they're the only team, but it's only because Myers plays here. The only team that I've heard Myers linked to so far, but
yeah.
So does that make them the favorite? Well, maybe a contender is a better way of saying it, to get Myers the favorite. So hard to say. We don't even know if they like him. We don't even know if it's true.
Yeah, I think it was more of like, if there's any team that has a hole that he can fill, it might be them.
Right. That's fair.
Sharms asked, do you think the odd man out could be Garland if a deal with Pearson, or Garland in a deal if Pearson comes out? I feel like you're saying if he comes into the lineup.
Right, right.
Yeah, I mean, I've voiced my displeasure of losing Garland,
right?
Because, beneath the surface, he's a solid, positive impact player. But I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah,
I'd rather just trade Pearson if possible.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about on the show many times, Parker, that when you look at the three forwards between Garland, Beauvillier, and Besser, how they're all valued in different ways. Beauvillier's he's a UFA after this year, and he's the cheapest of the three. Garland is in the middle of the three, but he's got the most term, and Besser is the most expensive of the three, but has the upside to score the most. So it depends. Yeah, it depends what you're looking for. But I think Besser's is the hardest one to move because of how expensive it is.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It is. It definitely is.
Speaking of, will he finally get 30?
I say no. I say he'll get
No,
25. Yeah.
I would be around there too.
Yeah. And speaking of money again, Lucas, thank you for the donation. I know some folks who know about Canucks After Dark within the org. Well, that's nice of them. Nice of you, Lucas. Now we need to get upstairs and notice you. Or maybe they have.
I don't know. Is that a good thing?
No, actually, I'm fighting with the Canucks, but we'll save that for another
Yeah.
story. Yeah, okay. We'll save that for another stream.
Symphonia asks, what do you consider as a successful season?
For me, it's playoffs. Not for me, Canuck Clay or ParkersPucks. I think the team is expecting playoffs. Here's a small thing too, Parker. I get that long drawn out negotiations, especially on such an important contract. Petey's biggest money making contract of his career will be the next one. But is there a chance he wants to see how the season goes? And maybe not the whole season, but at least until Christmas before he fully commits?
Oh, for sure. I mean, he's made it. He's said it himself, right? That he wants to play for a team that wins. I mean, I'm sure he's smart enough to look at the roster and say, okay, they clearly are trying to make it better.
Yeah.
Right? Like they've made moves to improve this team. So I'm sure that he appreciates that. But I mean, you can put all the right pieces together however you want. But if the team doesn't win hockey games, as reasonable or unreasonable as it is, he's going to have to make the call of, is there just something wrong here that he can't fix and then he just needs to go elsewhere, right?
Right.
So I think, coming into this negotiation, I think the team being good is very important. Yeah. It's like if the team gets like 102 points this season, again, that would be a huge step up, and that would be great. I think we're expecting them to be sort of in like the 95 to 98 range. Yeah. If all goes well. But if they breach the 100-point mark, I'm sure that would look good to a guy like Pettersson. Like, okay, this is the team, this is the group that I want to be the leader of, right?
Yes. Yes.
And get that playoff action.
Yep. So successful season, I think, is the playoffs. I know the Stanley Cup's the ultimate goal, but we got to be realistic too. Without doing the flippant, all you got to do is get in, which is sort of true. Got to make the playoffs first.
Yeah, you do actually have to get in. It's not just. I mean, yeah, it's like, getting in doesn't mean you're gonna make it there, right? Like, you do need to have a really good team to get past, Vegas and Colorado and all these other teams, But the first prerequisite is making the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna be a contender the first year that they make the playoffs, right? They do need to have that, like, okay, they made it in, they are growing, and then next year, then what do, right? They're not going to have Ian Cole anymore, right? Or he's going to need more money if he's fantastic, right? Okay, then what are they going to do in this next cycle to improve again to the next level? That's going to be, the true test.
Yep, for sure.
All
I
right.
like this one. Oh, well, last one.
Yep, go for it.
Which Canuck, if you had to pick one, plays all 82 games this year? Who's our Ironman? I actually have an answer.
I was going to say, this sounds like a good way to curse a player. Okay, you go ahead. I'm going to look at the list.
Mine is our new guy, Pius Suter. Last 2 seasons, he's played 82 and 79 games. That's pretty good. That's a full season and missing 3. And I believe his Chicago year, 55, it's because he started a third into the season. So I'm going with Suter.
That's a good pick. Because you know that he will be in every game, right? He's not going to get scratched.
Right.
That was sort of my dilemma too. I'm like, it could be like a Susie, but like he might get pulled out for a game. Like, who knows? I'm gonna go with Kuzmenko. Does he play every game last year? 81. He played 81 games last year.
He didn't take every warm up last year. I'm just right.
No, he did not. But I will go with Kuzmenko as my pick.
Good. Love it.
All right.
That was good.
Any other ones you want to take? You want to wrap up?
No, I think we can wrap up. It's nice to be back. That's for sure.
It was.
Felt good.
Folks, thank you for joining on this lovely, hot August Monday. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit subscribe, do all that good stuff. If you missed any part, you can rewind back to the beginning. And I know lots of you did, because I can see that the graph just does this slow. How do I push this?
No,
way?
other way.
The slow tick up over time. So if you missed any part, feel free to rewind back to the beginning, or you can find it on your favorite podcast platform in about 10-15 minutes. Clay, any parting words this fine Monday evening?
Well, hopefully you're surviving. I know you're sweltering right now.
It is 81 in here. It's not that bad.
Oh, it came down a bit. Thanks to everyone.
27.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for joining us. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. A lot of you guys donated money tonight, which was very, very generous of you. And no, I'm excited. I know we talked about skipping next week, but then coming back on August 28th, and that's starting our cycle of back to regular weekly shows. Is that correct?
That sounds right to me. Yeah.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Yeah, we'll take next week off, and then we'll be back on the 28th, 10 p.m. Other than that, though, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.